Ravager? I don't even know her! Bop. Thor. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Today, we're continuing our look at Love and Thunder with the Marvel Legends Ravager Thor. Starting off with the packaging, and this is actually the 4th time we've looked at this box together. Name and colorful Love and Thunder logo down here, broken Mjolnir up top, key art on one side, and completely different key art on the back. Thor wields the mighty Stormbreaker against a terrifying new foe. Online movie critics. A colorful box for a colorful movie. For packaging, I'm giving Ravager Thor 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, and Ravager Thor stands at 6 3/4 inches. Similar to the previous Thor we looked at, and this is a completely new sculpt. Visually, this design takes a lot of parallels from Thunderstrike. I also understand that it was inspired by Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. From the top, and this might be one of the best likenesses I have ever seen from Hasbro. Printed on details include the piercing blue eyes and beard. He also has his wild mane of dirty blonde hair. Nice wash to bring out all that detail. And while we're back here, we can see his vest has been properly bedazzled. That vest is a softer plastic, bit of black punched in. Kinda reminds me of a Michael Jackson jacket without the sleeves. And while we're here, I absolutely love this shirt. It depicts Yggdrasil, the world tree, along with the 9 realms. We've got some bear arms this time around. Nice gold belt buckle with some Asgardian detail, along with a nice textured and detailed belt. As is customary with a Marvel figure, the pants have a lot of different lines and seams, and the boots are straight out of the comics, down to the yellow wraps. They're not the cleanest painted, but it was a joy to finally see this in a movie, and honestly, Hasbro did a pretty good job, especially considering that they couldn't be bothered to do that with Ragnarok. Ragnarok the character, not the, movie. Although Thor only wore this costume for a brief period of the opening of the film, Hasbro has done a great job of translating it to action figure form. I'm particularly impressed with the job they did on Chris Hemsworth's likeness. For presentation, I'm giving Ravager Thor 1 whole point. Moving on to posability, and there's some pretty good engineering here. From the top, and Thor's head's in a dumbbell joint. If you can think he can look up with this hair, you're crazy. He can look a bit down though. Bit of tilt, which honestly surprised me. And all the way around. He has swivel hinge shoulders that raise up 90 degrees. There are D-tents in there so they can click into place. Bicep swivel, pinless, double jointed elbows, and swivel hinge wrists. They can hinge up this far and down this far. Sadly, despite the hammer, neither one of them can hinge side to side. Shifting the torso, and Thor has an ab crunch and a waist swivel. He can hunch over this far. As you can see, he's a defender of the 5 realms, and despite the jacket, he can arch back this far. And again, side to side with the waist swivel. Below the waist, and Thor has ball jointed hips. They can kick forward just under 90 degrees, and they can split this far, which is honestly pretty impressive. Granted, it's not the Jean-Claude Van Damme perfect split he does in the movie. Moving on down the leg, and Thor has thigh cut, pinless, double jointed knees, and Marvel Legends ankles that can hinge and pivot. Often a bulkier character like Thor suffers in the articulation department, but that is absolutely not the case here. For posability, I'm giving this Thor 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and Thor comes with Stormbreaker. It's the exact same sculpt as the one we looked at last time, but this one has some extra painted detail. Considering that they got away with not doing that in this one, I'd have been completely fine with it not being here, but the fact that it is appreciated. Also, like last time, they punched in a bit of extra silver, and also like last time, the handle is a bit pliant. He also comes with Korg's left arm. The bracer has some nice leather texture, and some silver punched in for the studs. This Thor comes with 2 weapon holding hands. This allows him to dual wield like I was hoping for last time, but like last time, the grips are kinda loose, and alternate fists would have been appreciated. Technically, you can use Hercules hands, but they are a bit disproportionately large. My hands are huge! They're like boxing gloves! I am the greatest. Name that quote in the comments below. But playability is more than just accessories, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. For a couple of the Love and Thunder figures we've looked at so far, here he is with Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor, and Gore the God Butcher. But for just a few general MCU comparisons, here he is with Spider-Man from Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. Here he is with Doctor Strange from No Way Home, and Multiverse of Madness. On the subject of Multiverse of Madness, here he is with Scarlet Witch from WandaVision, and Vision from WandaVision. And then for for one last MCU comparison, here he is with Iron Man Mark III, but switching over to the comics, and here he is with 80 years. And since this is a more 90s Thor, here he is with the modular armor, the Model 70, and the Gamerverse. For a Captain America comparison, I thought we'd shake things up with the 80 years version, but for the strongest Avenger, here he is with the 80 years Hulk. Here he is with Hercules. Hercules serves as a fantastic transition to some other cosmic characters, Captain Marvel for example, or Captain Universe. There are those who think that the new movie introduced a version of that character. And speaking of characters that the movie introduced to the MCU, here he is with Mistress Death. We didn't see Mistress Death herself, but there was a statue of her. Of course, where there's Mistress Death, Thanos can't be too far behind. But then coming back around to Thor, and here we have a 1997 version from Toy Biz, the 2006 Marvel Legends Blobwave version, and Marvel Select. For a couple of other Thor characters, and here we have Loki, Dr. Jane Foster, the Destroyer, and Beta Ray Bill. For the DC equivalent of Thor, here he is with Aquaman. Since Taika Waititi's making a Star Wars movie, here's Thor with some Black Series figures. And since Chris Hemsworth was in a Ghostbusters movie, here he is with them. I mean, not these Ghostbusters, but, you know. Are you a god? Yes, actually, the god of thunder. That's so cool. I have lightning powers also. It seems we have a lot in common. I feel myself getting over Jane already. And you're dead. No! That is exactly what I said when my version of Natalie Portman died. And scene. For a relative scale comparison, here he is with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. Hope you don't mind, but I decided to save the Marvel Legends Thor comparisons for head swaps. First things first, and here we have the 80 years version. I don't think this works exactly, but it's a look. By which I mean he looks less like the mighty Thor and more like John Mickle Thor. That said, if you ever wanted to see Chris Hemsworth in the classic comic book costume, this is a lot of fun. To help sell the proportions, I even switched out the hands. Honestly, Chris Hemsworth's arms are pretty much this big, so it does kind of work. And since we're talking about that buck anyway, we might as well bring in Ragnarok. To help sell the transition, I threw on the wristbands. Not gonna lie, it would be kind of fun to do this in a movie. For the most obvious comparison, and here he is with Thunderstrike. Admittedly, this one doesn't quite work as well. The collar of the vest really gets in the way. That said, I switched out the hands again, and again, the proportions aren't that far off. Conversely, Thunderstrike's head on Thor's body just doesn't really work. Sadly, it's just too big. Also, if you're curious, you can take the vests off pretty easily. Thunderstrike's is way too big for Thor, and Thor's is way too small to get on Thunderstrike. That does, however, mean that if you wanted to, you could display your Thor without the vest at all. It also means that with a bit of customizing, you can also have the blue version of Thor. And just because I love you, I got this figure loose from the Thor Dark World 2-pack. On its own, it's not awful, but just look at it with the new head. Point being that this head on any of your previous Thor bodies is definitely an upgrade. Lastly, the one I think all of us want to see, the new armor. I'm just kidding. As much as I like the helmet, I do like this so much more. It just seems more consistent with what Thor looked like in the movie. On the one hand, this Thor doesn't come with much in the way of accessories, and what it does come with is just reuse from something we've already gotten. On the other hand, you do have the versatility of displaying him either with your other Love and Thunder figures or with your Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, there's also all the potential for swaps. For playability, I'm giving Ravager Thor 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. I found Thor at Walmart for $24.99, but he seems pretty readily available everywhere. If you like this movie or just this costume, it's a must. And again, the potential for part swaps really elevates the rest of your collection. That said, this is also a costume you could pass on, and at $25, it really feels the lack of accessories. For price, I'm giving Ravager Thor half a point for a grand total of 4.5 out of 5. For more Thor, check out this Versus or this one on Thunderstrike. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.